Hello, this is Steve with Aimfront. Let's get started installing your new Aimfront scales on your Para 3 lightweight. Just a quick disclaimer, this is just for the Para 3 lightweight. This won't work for the Paramilitary 3. All right, let's get started. First thing that we're going to need, of course, is our factory knife. So we'll start with this. In the packaging of your Aimfront scales, you've got a little phosphor bronze washer. Let's put that off to the side. And then, of course, your scales. Let's put those off to the side. So with your factory Spyderco knife, let's set it down on the bench in this configuration. First thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to loosen the 256 screws. That's these screws right here. It's going to require a T6 Torx driver. So first loosen this side and then actually snug it back up. Flip it over, loosen the other side, and now you can remove this screw. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Go ahead and remove that screw. And we'll move those off to the side. Let's go ahead and remove, using a T8 Torx driver, let's remove the pocket clip screw. And pocket clip and screw, we'll push that off to the side. Out of the other side, this will fall out, move it off to the side. Let's take your T10 Torx driver and remove the pivot screw. Now we can turn our knife over. We have 2 screws left, so when we're removing these screws, let's make sure to hold the knife together. So we have our T10 Torx driver out, we can remove our pivot. Again, holding our knife together. And then we'll use our T8 driver and we'll remove this screw that goes into a blind hole. It doesn't go all the way through. So now we have all of our screws removed from the knife. Let's set the knife down on the bench and we'll pull the top cover off. In the top cover is a lock bar. We need to remove it. So pull the lock bar out, put this scale off to the side. We'll now remove the blade itself. Be very careful. Slide it directly up. Here's your other phosphor bronze washer. We'll put that off to the side with the blade. Let's remove your stop or spacer and your pivot. So there's this pivot. Let's remove it. And it's press fit in here, so it'll take a little bit of work. Perfect. Now there's nothing left in this factory scale, so we can move it off to the side. Now you can grab your Aimfront scales. Take this scale right here. You see this particular scale. Go ahead and set it down. You'll need your packaging and you'll need to remove your phosphor bronze washer. So the first thing we'll do is we'll take this piece right here. This is the stop for the blade to make sure it doesn't rotate too far. It goes into this counter bore right here. So we'll put it in here, we'll hold it in with our thumb, flip it over, we'll grab a 256 screw, which is going to be one of the smaller screws, the smallest screw actually. Put that in the hole, and then using your T6 driver, start threading it. Sometimes you have to actually thread it backwards to align it, and then start threading it clockwise. Just snug. We set the scale back on the bench. Next thing we're going to need is a washer. This washer will go over a little star patterned or hex patterned recess. It's actually a counter bore. You can see we're going to use this side, the hex side, of the pivot and line it up, and you'll feel it and it kind of snaps into place. After we have our pivot in place, you can see it right there, hold it with your thumb, flip the scale over, and take your T10 and your pivot screw and screw that down to lock it in place. That way it doesn't fall out, stays right there. Now take whatever knife oil you prefer, put a few dabs on the washer, and we'll take our blade and we'll slide it down over the pivot. Now from there, we'll take our lock bar. You see, here's the lock bar. We're going to put it in this configuration, if you can see that, and slide it over, slide it into place, and you'll feel, put the knife all the way out, or the blade all the way out, and you'll feel it lock over this backspacer right here. As soon as it slides over that backspacer, you can take your other scale, which is right here. Before you do this, grab your washer, grab just a few little dabs of oil where I'm putting it right here. That was a little much, but it's okay. Put your washer over the pivot. Now take that scale and set it into place. Make sure everything aligns. You'll kind of feel it click into place. And there you go. Now you can take your T10 driver and your pivot screw. Just put all these in very light. I'm not tightening any of them down. So now the knife is held together. You can take your 256 or your smallest screw, T6 driver. Again, go counterclockwise, align the threads. Sometimes it takes a few little times. There they go. And then back clockwise, and you'll feel the threads align so you're not cross-threading them. Again, I'm not tightening this down. Grab your T8 driver. You have 2 screws left. You can use either one of them. They're identical. Put the screw in place. Again, just light. It is not tight at all, so there's even a little slop in the scales. Next step is we're going to take this piece right here. It has a flat on it. You'll point this flat towards the back of the scales. There's a flat machined into the scales that line up with it. So I'll put this back here, line it up, and then press it into place. Now while holding it, take it down and use the bench to hold it in place. Grab your last screw, your T8 driver, screw it in a couple turns. We just need it in a couple turns, so just so it holds into place. Just like that. Now we can take our wire clip, and you can slide one side in and then the other side over the screw head. Give it a little bit of a press right here, and then take your T8 driver, screw it into place again, just slightly. We can fold our blade into place. Now we can check on centering. Before we tighten anything down, our blade looks like it's shifted a little bit to the right, so we are going to tighten the opposite side's pivot screw. So the blade is shifted to this side. I'm going to tighten this screw, just this screw. I'll use my T10 driver. Just going to tighten that down. Double check my blade alignment. My blade alignment now is perfect. And I'm going to tighten the other screws. So I'll start with my T8 driver, and I'll tighten my pocket clip screw. Flip the knife over. I'll tighten the other T8 screw. Snug. We don't want to break the screws, just snug. Move to my T6 driver. Snug these 256 screws down. If you're interested, the T8 screws are 440 screws. If you ever want to buy any, so you know what the thread pitch is. Again, I'm going to snug these up. And along the way, this is just a test fit that I'm doing. You can pull these back out and put a little bit of thread locker on them. I have not added thread locker in the video, but it's a good idea, especially to the pivot, because the pivot you'll get just snug and the thread locker will keep it from loosening up. But you'll want to tune in that perfect throw of your blade so it flicks out with ease. I'll take my T10 now. That other screw that I didn't snug up, I'll make sure it's snug. Okay, and as expected, the knife is very difficult to move. So this is where we have to tune it. And we'll just barely loosen each side with our T10 driver. Just barely. There we go. There it is. Blade's still nice and tight. We can go back and forth with this technique until I'm going to tighten it just a hair. And this is why the Loctite is good, because even though it's not tight, it will hold that screw in place. It's feeling pretty good. It's got a great action, no blade play. Let's double check centering. Centering is dead on. Everything looks nice. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for your purchase of Aimfront Scales.